Hello and welcome to the English box. Today we are going to talk about the future perfect continuous tense. So let's begin by looking at some examples. In 1 year's time, I'm going to graduate from the Humboldt University. When I graduate, I will have been living in Berlin for 16 months. I will have been working as an English teacher for almost 6 years, and I will have been learning Italian for just over 1 year. In these 3 examples, we can see the future perfect continuous, and we can also see 3 time clauses: when I graduate, in 1 year's time, and in 2012. When we use the future perfect continuous, we normally need to use a time clause as well. So let's look at the basic structure of the future perfect continuous. In a positive sentence, we start with the subject, then we have the auxiliary verb will, followed by have, followed by the verb to be in the past participle form, been, followed by the verb with gerund, with ing. In the negative form, we add not to the auxiliary verb will. This becomes won't. For example, I won't have been living. In a question, then we simply have to invert the auxiliary verb will and the subject. So in a closed question, you have will first, followed by the subject, followed by have, followed by been, and finally the verb in the gerund form. In an open question, you simply put the question word before the auxiliary verb. For example, how long will you have been working? So we've looked at the structure. When do we use this tense? Well, we use the future perfect continuous to describe an action that will continue until and perhaps beyond a certain time or event in the future. As you can see on the diagram, the blue action starts before now and continues until the future reference point, and we don't know if it will finish at this point or whether it will continue afterwards. As I said before, it continues up to a certain time or event. We introduce this time by saying in plus a number and a time expression. For example, in 1 minute, in 2 hours, in 10 days, or in 4 months. We can also say in 2 days' time or in 3 months' time, and then a sentence in the future perfect continuous. When we introduce an event, we can use when or by the time, plus a sentence in the present perfect simple. So if we think back to the first example, when I graduate, present simple, I will have been living in Berlin for 16 months, the future perfect continuous. Let's look at a few more examples. Number 1 says, you'll only have been waiting 10 minutes when his plane arrives. So we have the future perfect continuous, you'll only have been waiting. And then we have the time expression or the time clause when his plane arrives in the present simple. Also notice the position of the adverb after the auxiliary verb will and the contraction of the subject and the auxiliary verb you'll. Number 2, you have a question. How long will you have been studying when you graduate? Again, you have the time clause in the present simple. By this time next year, she'll have been working at the school for 3 years. So this time the time clause is introduced with by this time next year. And finally, number 4, I'll have been teaching for 6 years by the time I finish studying at uni. So again, the time clause in present simple. That brings us to the end of the video. If you'd like to subscribe to our channel, then click the big yellow button. If you'd like to watch a tense review, click the pinkish purple button. And if you'd like to watch a video about funny words, then click the red button. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.